place that they used to visit all the time, and and we talk about it all the time. But cause he like played this joke on my grandma when they were walking in, and my grandpa's like, Maxine, you didn't say hi to that guy out there. She's like, what guy? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. And there's this statue of this Indian on a horse.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's what's crazy about when I channel stuff, because it gets with some people, with a lot of people actually, it gets really specific, and sometimes I jokingly say this, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't always get the memo for what information comes, and sometimes it's literally just like, okay, I'm seeing a cartoon fish with like giant eyeballs, and I just have to say that, and then people sometimes they're like, what? and, but then later on, like that
But I
light
get it.
bulb will
Yeah.
go off, because I get texts all the time from people just at random times of the day, where they're just like, hey Sky, you remember when you said blah 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 blah, and my first initial
Yeah.
reaction is usually like, no, I because I when I because I read so many people, I just unpack it like it's just,
Right,
it's
right.
in and it's out, because like if I had to retain any of that, any of the stuff, like it would just make me go crazy.
Yeah, though, but it was funny because I was just going through and I was like writing down notes through it and everything, and I was like, but it was totally like my ancestors like just sending you pictures of like what I'm assuming of just things that I would know who that was. Who
Yeah,
was there?
they do their best,
Like
and
who you were there? Like who was there? So
it,
I'm like,
it's interesting
is that all
too.
that people were doing? Because you were before
Mm,
that you were talking about like who was there or and things like that. It's interest. Anyway, to like go through and
I'm
like
definitely gonna go. I'm gonna look through it when I watch through it. It's gonna be really interesting, because
but I
like
love it.
there's just so much volume of stuff that comes through. But like as you're saying that, it's interesting to me because different, like when we're talking about ancestors specifically, they,
Yeah.
like for me, I can get stuff in different ways, and it depends on how they try to like connect or push through. So sometimes I'll just literally only get a picture, and so then when I'm channeling something, I have to decide, am I like in the moment as I'm talking to somebody, because usually there's like five streams of things going on at one time, and I have to like prioritize what I'm going to try and convey and how to describe it. So it's like, I say this too, it's kind of like being a translator or an interpreter, because you're like, okay, with this person, with their energy, how am I going to connect in a way that is either like what my priorities are? Is it going to be, do I want them to understand it the way that I'm seeing it, or do I want it to come through as unfiltered as possible? So I'm just going to whatever, um, and just trust the process, because every
Yeah.
person's unique. But yeah, you, I remember, it's just like there's a lot to say there, so that doesn't surprise me. 4 hours though, holy cow. I'm interested in hearing like how much, or how long the reading was, because when I go to events, what I tell people and what it's usually been is the average person will go between 20 and 35 minutes just for the healing session, just by itself. And
Okay. Yeah.
I've had like a couple outliers in my private practice where it's like some people have been over an hour. I had this one person that was like 90 minutes. It was really, really
Yeah, we were
long.
talking about her on there because you had said that because we were like, oh my gosh, like what time it was or how long it had taken.
Oh, with
But
your,
I have to see because I need to calculate because before that we were talking, yeah, before. So I gotta calculate from like when it really started all the way to the end.
mm,
I'll let you know
okay.
because I can't look at what I just edited because that took out some things.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll let you know what the others was.
Oh,
But yeah, it's good.
you redacted parts of it, like you edited all of that yourself
Huh? Yeah, I've been editing.
for weeks?
I left a lot of it. I was like, man, I don't know what I want to take out because I did take out the creepy men part.
Oh, okay.
but
I'm remembering it now. Okay. Yeah.
and the creepy man part. I didn't think on that part. But
You mean you don't want to have like a YouTube role that's just like a YouTube short where it's just about
I know,
creepy
but it's
men?
gonna be. I'm like, what do I take out? Because like it's long, but I don't know. It's
Well,
like, what do I take out?
what
I
I'm
didn't know how to interpret it like the best way. Cause like if you just take snippets, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? You know. But
maybe that's good though.
I want
Sometimes
to
I
have
don't.
like a full view.
You never know with like the algorithm and everything, especially since you're going to be like posting on YouTube. Because
Mhm.
sometimes, what the way I feel about it personally is record long form like a
Mhm.
podcast. Do something you're
Yeah.
good at because you're a talker. So, don't try to change that or anything. So then when you
Right.
record something, then you've got a lot of meat to process. And
Mhm.
I feel like these days, especially because I follow YouTube really closely, the shorts are what drive the algorithm to bring you new viewers,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
shorter form. So it's good to have snippets. And a lot of the time,
Yeah.
the people that I follow who have been growing really, really fast, especially in the last 2 years,
Mhm.
they have like two channels. They have one channel where they have just the long form content, and then the second channel they have um, they have short videos specifically between like 9 and 12 or 13 minutes. That's like the sweet spot. So if you have like little snippets of that, because I follow a couple podcasts and they all do it that way, especially like with Joe Rogan. He's super, super popular,
Yeah.
and this other podcast called Whatever Podcast, and their videos on the podcast range usually like 4 hours. It's like 4 or 5 hours, whatever. But
Well,
on
I
their
know that. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying like on their second channel, they've got like
Mhm.
a bajillion little
Little
like videos they
snippets
can
of
put.
it.
Yeah, they probably like schedule their uploads out for like 6 to 12 months ahead of time, just because
Oh,
of
jeez.
all of that. Yeah, because if you have
Yeah.
like just one episode, right? Like you've been editing
Yeah.
for a long time. How many episodes can you get from that? Like with little snippets, probably a lot.
Oh, there's plenty that I can. I
Yeah.
have so much content, I don't know what to do with some of that.
That's a good place to be, though, man. Like, it's better to be ahead of yourself than behind yourself, because the last place you'd want to be as a creative is to have like that push to just upload something without the natural desire to do it. It's got to be real.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, well, do I keep it, long? But then I know that like
I
sometimes you
personally
want to keep
feel
people's attention,
I feel
so
like
you
you
want to
should
keep it,
do this is my opinion,
longer.
and this is my opinion, it's what I feel is true for both of us actually,
Mhm.
that we should probably keep it simple and do two things.
Okay.
One where it's long form and one where it's short form. And especially because it's like early in the game, you
Mhm.
you can gauge after a year, say,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
like what's doing what and what the trends are, if you really want to care about it to that extent.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like that because you can go everywhere and you can kind of like get lost in splitting yourself,
Mhm.
maybe to have that variety without being so gung ho right away, because I feel like you do like variety.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
like it's got it, like 10 times out of 10 when you're given a choice, like if you go to an ice cream shop and there's like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, that's okay. But if there's a ice cream shop next to it that has like 17 different flavors, or even if it's like a couple miles away and it has 17 different
Yeah.
flavors, then that's the one you're going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I think because right now I have, I mean they're longer, but I can totally make little highlight videos as well. uses like social as well.
You're are you like focusing on one specific platform, like either YouTube or Facebook or uh
So I use Instagram and Facebook to like kind of advertise for it.
mhm.
Uh, and then like YouTube is where like the longer videos is where I've
Mm,
been putting that stuff. Um, and some shorts of specific different things
maybe you could
relating to like basically relating to our. That's where a lot of the healing session ones have been that have been related to like podcasts, um, and then I have some like nature walks that we did and things like that on there
Ooh,
as
that's nice.
well. But I mean, that's kind of where my focus is for the YouTube. Whereas Instagram, I do a lot more reels on like the little spots that we go and things like that.
Mm.
And more to like advertise for podcast releases and advertising, for the new videos that I'm doing. But so that's kind of how I have it structured in that way. But
Maybe you could
yeah,
maybe cuz
it is.
Instagram is like pretty hot these days and it's very competitive. But it's like
Yeah,
what I've considered for my situation is like to take those long form, put them on YouTube, because people are going to watch them there. Put them,
yeah,
post them up for podcast too, because there's a big demand for audio only also. But like even on TikTok too, just to cut up and you can recycle them and like double, triple post too, because no one's gonna know if you have it like mixed up here or there.
yeah.
But like that
I haven't
stuff,
gotten into TikTok, but I know TikTok's probably going to like be a good one
I've
for.
been so stubborn about TikTok for so many
I
years.
know. I
Just
haven't took the initiative, but I'm like, it might be worth it. But
yeah, I mean, it drives a
I'm so
lot.
like bogged down with already what I have that I'm
Yeah,
like
so I
trying to
heard
find another one.
so what I get for you too, like as we're talking about this is like a couple minutes back. Maybe this is a hypothetical question. You don't have to answer it or anything, but it's like, what if you hired an editor?
I would love an editor.
You should get an
I would
editor.
love to give all of my social media to somebody. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the problem is like, can I afford it the whole time?
Hmm.
That's the whole thing. But and finding the right one. Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Worth the
could
money though, if I,
you could take out like a business loan or something, because that's what I'm doing. I'm applying for that so I can
yeah.
get resources for that and get on it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but like, there's
But yeah,
because it's a lot. It's
it's
so
a
much.
lot.
Yeah.
It's frustrating,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna say, I mean, I'm not like the best about it. Like, I don't know
You should look on
really
you.
savvy either.
You should look
Like,
on like
I don't
Fiverr.
know the different things, but I've looked on Fiverr before,
Mm.
to do specific things, um, but I haven't dived deep into letting somebody just take over all of it.
Yeah. So that's the shadow work that has to be done, isn't it? Because
Yeah, yeah,
it's about trust. It just boils down to trust with
yeah.
it. Yeah, I hear you. It's a
Because
you.
my friend wanted to do my social media or whatnot, but I haven't figured out how exactly to like implement that. Like, okay, what does she need? Like, it comes down to like, okay, how do I like what do I give her? It's like, okay, am I creating like the right design?
Well,
Is she creating the
I
right
would I would re-
graphic? Or am I doing that? And then she's just posting it.
yeah, I would
I'm kind of like
recommend.
stuck to
I have some experience to share with this actually, if it helps you
yes,
some,
please.
because my girlfriend in the Philippines,
Uh huh.
she posts like she's basically the one in charge of Sky Chen the page. I don't really do anything
Uh
there,
huh. I got you.
and she does a great job. But she like so we had to link up our accounts in a certain way. And, you know, it just takes like an afternoon or something to like go through your settings and everything.
I've done that in short periods, so like I understand. I know how to do that.
Mm.
Like I've had people help do my website and stuff. I know how to add those things.
Yeah. So you can just set it up.
She's in Virginia, and so, well, yeah, but I know that she would do a good job of like what I'm like. It's finding somebody who actually kind of knows herbalism kind of stuff too is what I would like. You know, like have some sort of
An herbalist, social media managing web programmer.
yeah, that's exactly.
I think you need some I think you need some trust and releasing of the grip, honestly, because it's like it's the age old it's age old for all of us, you know, because we're here in this world with form. Sometimes we get attached to what we create. And it's more about trekking the path than it is about collecting the rocks along the way. Or the finish line too, you know? Because I feel the same way too. It's like I've got serious trust issues, but it's like I still like last year I gave 2 agencies a try, and they failed. But with both of those failures, I learned a lot about like getting a better idea of like what is going to work for me, you know? And I'm blessed to have those experiences, and maybe, you know, maybe you're going to have experiences like that too. It just comes with the territory being an entrepreneur and like putting yourself out there. It's like a cheetah that goes hunting is going to fail 9 times out of 10, but that one time they get the gazelle, it's really delicious.
Right. But there's, because then, that opens me up to be able to create more, more videos and things that I need to record and do. So, I would love to give all of that.
Yeah, because, yeah, you're going to be happier just being like more creative and having the outlet for it rather than doing the mundane stuff. Yeah, because it's just a little too repetitive for you. You'd rather have it automated. So I think you should. But again, I remember that you're a manifesting generator, aren't you? Yeah. Okay. So this is I think we talked about this in the video, but this is coming up again. It's like every single, and I mean this, I literally mean this. Every single manifesting generator that I've ever known and read their profile for, we're talking like a handful of people. They all have an issue with designating tasks to other people outside of themselves. It's because they have this jack of all trades nature to them. And because they like to cut ahead of the line, they like to take shortcuts and like everything, because not only do they conceptualize it from the place of manifesting, which is what manifestors do like myself, but they're also just generators themselves. So that's how they work. So it's like the repetition can easily reinforce that. So yeah, don't cut corners. You should get an editor. Yeah. I think you'll find someone, put it out there into the universe that you're asking for someone like that, and who's also affordable, that cares about. For whatever reason, I'm getting India right now. I see an Indian woman. She's like young. You should go on Fiverr, because like you can find quality labor on there for.
One lady that did reach out, and I tried her. It was hard communicating. Wasn't really getting what I wanted.
Was she from India also?
I don't know if she's from India, but
I'm seeing like I'm just seeing this woman right now who's like very attractive, and she's young. That's what it feels like to me. She's like she's like under 25. She knows her stuff.
I don't know if she's this one, but was she the one that was looking for an intern? That was still school. Or is that a different one? I'd have to look at the website. But.
Yeah, it's possible you've maybe met her already.
Yeah, so that's.
She's gorgeous. She's got like very defined eyelashes. That's how you'll know what if you ever run into this person. She's gonna have like gorgeous eyes, well defined, and like voluptuous lashes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet. All right.
Mm.
I'm looking for eyes, man. Looking at their eyes. Go to buy them
No. No, I feel like by that time, when the opportunity comes to you, your mind will be in another place, because from the moment you wake up, you're thinking about like a dozen things already anyway, and it just revolves. Like I'm seeing the scene in Beauty and the Beast, when they have like everybody like be our guest, and it's like all that shit's going on. Like that's everything in your mind at once. Like every teacup, every plate, every like fork, and like
dancing around.
inanimate object. Yeah. So don't worry. I feel like you won't be in that space when it happens, but it'll be so sudden, so sudden that you'll like remember me saying that and be like, oh.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, the
If you don't want her, I'll take her because I feel like she's a good editor.
all right. I know, right? Oh man.
Yeah, I'm in the situation where I'm like, how do I get my girl over here? Because I've got like so many different things happening at once. I've got to find a new place within 2 months. So I got to move. Yeah, because the landlady decided that she doesn't want to renew past September. Yeah.
I got it.
So,
Talk about that.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have no idea I have no idea. Because it's at the same time, too, we discovered more with my health. Like, I just got back from my doctor yesterday. And this doesn't surprise me or anything because I've been having, like, the stubbornness of, like, getting to the root of how I've been so ill for the past 10 years. And then I had all this stuff. I don't know if I told you, but I don't have to go in depth with it or anything, but, like, I went through some major shit in the Philippines. It was great.
You were talking about a lot of it, but yeah, that's why I asked when we talked back out to you. We were gonna meet. I was like, I hope you're
Oh yeah, my foot. Yeah, man.
Yeah, right? A little bit. Chris asked me for a walk for a little bit or something.
Yeah, like I basically I had athlete's foot that lasted from Taiwan. So I got athlete's foot 10 years ago. And then it was so stubborn to treat. Like I threw everything at it, even including herbals. And I was able to kill it on my left foot like 6 or 7 years ago. But then on the right foot, it would come and go in a really weird way.
I need to listen to this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I used a lot of herbals with it too, but it still was resistant to the herbals. But anyway, I had like it got to a point where it came again in the Philippines, and then it opened up. So I had like an open sore.
Oh yeah, open source.
And my hypothesis is that it got infected with some water, either in the bathroom with the shower or like just walking outside or something. And like the last week I was there, it started getting bad. And like 2 days before my flight, I smelled it and my girl smelled it. And we were both like, oh my God, because it smelled like a carcass, basically, like the flesh was rotting. And I was like, fuck, this is the worst timing this could possibly happen, because like either I'm going to stay in the Philippines, get treated, or I have to just gung fucking ho it to the US, because I had a feeling in my gut that this was like very serious. Yeah, I went to bed that night with a fever, woke up the next day, the day that I'm traveling, my traveling day, and I just did the best I could, took my vitamins, ate a good meal, all that. And then she was all sad, because it was like she broke down crying and everything, and it was like, oh man. But like all I could think about as soon as I stepped foot in the airports was like, I gotta get home. So yeah, it between like when I was in the Philippines, it was okay until I was like at my last gate to get to Taiwan, and then from Taiwan to California, then from California to Minnesota. It was pretty atrocious actually. But like I went from I had to be wheeled out in a wheelchair in Taiwan, and then when I got to the US, it was so bad. My leg was like twice the size it should be, and nothing was helping it. No ice wasn't helping it, nothing. And it was like the pain.
Probably didn't help it at all either.
No, it was the decompression was horrible, and the pain was some of the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. It was so bad, and I got to, but thank God I had this beautiful, amazing woman with a huge heart, this Latina woman who just helped me because she could see how serious it was. But she was really, really kind. And she wheeled me all around LAX, which is usually like a really shitty airport to go through. But because, like, it's funny seeing the silver lining too, because it's like even as I was like as sick as I was and like in very serious situation, it's so nice to just be wheeled around a whole airport and be able to go through the back doors and shit and just avoid all of that crap because I had priority boarding. And yeah, so it was like, oh, yeah, I don't recommend getting like an infected foot to the point where you might die, but to do that. But like, yeah, I got back to the US and as soon as I got off the airplane and I was picked up by my friend, yeah, no, I said hospital now. We need to go. Like it was serious. I needed to be in the hospital. And this is coming from a dude who like, that's the last resort option. Let's say if you're going to die, you need emergency care, you know, you go to standard medicine. So thank God I did though, because it was pretty bad. It was like really, really bad. I got there just in the nick of time. No antibiotics were working on it. So like one morning when I woke up from one of the worst nights of my life with like, we were struggling to get my fever down. I had like 104 and I was in a world of hurt. Yeah. And the pain meds weren't working either because they were just giving me that stupid, they give you Advil or Tylenol. And if I get to choose, I'm going to choose Advil over it, like ibuprofen, because acetaminophen is super toxic to the liver and it doesn't really work that well on me. But they won't give you more than like 2. Because like normally if you just buy it over the counter, you could pop like 4 if you need it or whatever. And I'm pretty sensitive anyway. But anyway, my doctor wakes me up that morning after, and she's got no fucking chill. And she just comes straight into the room, and she's like really high strung all the time. And she's like, I've got some bad news. And I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, oh my God. Bedside manner. Yeah. Oh, we've got some bad news. Oh my God. Like, and you're sitting here and it's like, don't give me a heart attack right now. But it was funny. It was funny because every single time that specific doctor came into my room, my heart monitor would increase by like 20 beats a minute. And she would come in and she'd be like, well, why is your heart beating faster? And I was like, it's you. I literally said that. I was like, it's you. You need to take a chill pill. And towards the end of this hospitalization, they all loved me. Because like they got to know what I do and I was channeling like a crap ton with them also at the same time. So it's like, they were really fascinated. And she's that kind of person who's all in her head. Like she's completely in her head. But she was attracted to me. So it's like she kept coming back and back and back. And one day, like it was the day I got discharged or whatever, she sat down and had like an hour-long conversation with me. It was just pretty cool. But yeah, we eventually got it down. I was in there for like 7 days. Got out. I was on crutches and it was still hurting like a bitch, but I healed pretty fast. I've got like I was just talking to my girl earlier about this. I don't know if I can show it to you, but I've got this one scar now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, but it's like that. I hope it'll heal all the way, but it might be there for a while, but I don't really have feeling. When I put my finger over it, I can't feel that anymore. So might have some nerve damage there, but I'm alive, so.
Yeah. Jeez.
And then after that, like once once I recover, like a week goes by, and then I get really, really serious, what's it called? Strep throat. And it was really weird because it hit me, but then like I hit it back with herbals and with a bunch of other stuff like immediately. And then it started to go down. And then like one night randomly, but it never really is that, you know, there's always a spiritual significance to it. I woke up the next day and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. It was so bad. It was so bad. Like my whole,
Like everything, yeah.
yeah, but it was only that. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't a fever. It wasn't like weakness or chills or anything like that. So, but then I got tested and it's like, okay, yeah, I've got strep. So I took another round of antibiotics.
I hope you build up your gut after
No, but the thing is, I never had that to begin with because I had been working because that's my last thing, you know? But like, I went into my doctor yesterday and he's very popular. So he normally only has like a little window, but he does AK and he sees like thousands of people. But I wrote him up like just a synopsis so that we wouldn't spend like a whole hour just talking about it in the office. So he read through it, and when I went there yesterday, he was just like in militant mode. But he knows that I'm open to this, so instead of doing the typical kind of muscle testing, he tested more like trusting his own intuition and then writing up stuff and everything. But he said that with me, something came up that he's never seen before from any person. And I was like, well, it doesn't really surprise me. But he said that whatever I had that was mutated, and then we tested how long it's been in my body this way too. But I've had 9 years ago, I had a combination of parasite, a bacteria, and a virus working together to mutate. And he says that like 90% of the time, like it's one with another type. It's not all of them.
Oh, wow.
So that makes a lot of sense. That what has been frustrating me a lot in my own health progress for the past 10 years has always been bouts of time where like I have flare-ups of something and it seems like nothing helps it. Those specific symptoms, like all the other symptoms, like 90% of my symptoms have gone, but I still have like this lingering residue, which was actually what this psychic medium told me, because I rarely get readings for myself, but once in a while I get drawn to it. So I was drawn to this psychic in California, and she gave me a really interesting reading. And she was like, she picked that up. I didn't tell her nothing about me. But towards the end of the reading, she was like, you have this residue in you, like in your body, that you need to see a doctor for. She said like infectious disease expert, but if I do that, it'll be like 500 years by the time. They'll be studying my corpse and still not knowing what is going on. You know, they'll be doing a biopsy and be like, Or as one Taiwanese doctor told me a decade ago when I was like right fresh at the start of this, he looks at me and he was one of the few doctors that I liked because he was kind and he was like willing to listen to me. And he didn't have like an ego, but he looked at me and he's like, I think we just need to cut you open and look inside. It was really funny because he would do this test and he'd do that and everything. And it's like, if you have autoimmune disease or if you have like something complicated like that, like a lot of us do, it just makes those traditional doctors scratch their heads just because of the stupid way that they have to diagnose things. But I remember that. He was a nice guy though. He was the only doctor that would prescribe me ivermectin.
I don't know what that is.
You know, like when COVID came around, like early 2020, and then there was all this controversy about medicines that work or whatever, and then hospitals didn't want to administer it. So it was two things. It was hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And this is the craziest thing, Karen. Like, in the first year that I got sick, way before COVID, the two medications that they prescribed me after they figured out you have autoimmune disease were those two things. So when COVID came around, it was like really surreal for me. I was like, this cannot be a coincidence for me in my life as far as like how I've come here. And so I still don't understand what that's about, but it could be, saying, hey, you've got stuff to deal with, which I always knew. Like, even when the doctors were denying me, I was like researching into all of this, and everything was coming to the point of this is probably related to parasites. You probably have parasites in you. I was like, obsessed with that. And I never was officially recognized as having them. But when I started my herbal journey on my own, I think I took care of a lot of that. But apparently there's still stuff. I hear Jeff Goldblum saying life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
Like in Jurassic Park, like, yeah, the butterfly effect. But anyway.
Well, I'm glad you're doing better.
Yeah, I'm okay. I've got a course now, but I'm taking like more stuff than I was before, so it's like, oh boy. Because he was testing me on like what is going to work, and he uses herbal stuff. But it was like, what was so complex about it was just like, if he got a yes from me with his testing, and then he adds something to it, then that thing becomes weaker for certain things. So he said it was really, so I could sense he was like really having to work into it. But we settled on like, I've got to take like 7 things all at the same time, because if I give any leeway on one edge of it or another, it can just mutate, because whatever I've had was 9 years ago was very adaptive, which is something that we all have a common shared goal with as herbalists, or even as, people are really traditional, or not traditional, but conventional, it's a better word, medicine, pharmaceuticals and stuff. I think we both have the same goal. But unfortunately, there isn't a lot of economic incentive to create new antibiotics.
Yeah, I know.
And there isn't as much.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we can preach. We're both in the same boat with that.
We don't have time to go there with it. Oh man.
Yeah, we should have more podcasts about that, just talking about herbs and illness and stuff. Not necessarily just like channeling, but yeah, we just like straight talking.
For sure. Yes. All right. So let's see. Yeah, it's 11. So we're going to talk about the sponsor stuff. You want to do.
Yes.
So we talked about doing like some shout outs. You wanted me to do some shout outs in like the next episode. And that was episode with you, right? Podcast with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or no? You don't
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm in agreement. Yes.
Oh, okay. And then what else did we talk about? We had talked about.
I can't remember what we were, because I had suggested. It was just a suggestion though. If it would maybe be better to have like a way to track whoever comes to me because of your putting it out there, I can share with you. But then you were like, how are we going to follow that? But then we were talking about like creating a product code. So it's like use code.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, we had talked about doing some sort of referral code that we could put in the show notes and in the other things.
I could go both ways. It's just there's different like benefits and drawbacks to each situation. But yeah, it's totally up to you for that. I'm not really too gung ho about one way or another. I could also, we could get like something, what we were talking about before that too. What was it? It was like you had said like a shout out for like a little blip in the episode, and then like something written, and then like a package deal or something like that. Like I'm fine with negotiating that too. Just saying like, here's like a couple $100, or here's, you know, whatever for this many episodes or whatever too. So
Oh yeah, for as like how many you wanted me to do. Yeah, like we can create a package that way too.
it depends how many podcasts we do too. If people want me, if people want you to bring me on more or not or whatever. So how many did you want to record first, just to?
Well, we talked about just doing 3, I thought, to start and see how that went.
Okay.
Which I think that's probably a
Mm.
good amount. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably a good amount. Did we only record it? We recorded just one, right? And then
Yeah.
okay, yeah, just one, and then also the healing session too.
It was the healing session we did.
Mm. What's the? So do you want to do 2 more podcasts? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, want to.
Yeah, I'm totally down. I love talking to you guys.
So, I would.
What do you want to talk about?
I have, how many do I have still? I think I have, I have like 4 in the queue right now.
I guess I'd be interested in knowing ahead of time like what topics we're going to discuss too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think one that would be really good is going into the Chinese herbs. Maybe
That's
talking about
that's
how that
so
works and
that's so deep.
if you feel comfortable in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
That could easily turn into another channel,
I know.
cuz it's like the way to introduce people to it so that it like makes sense from how you approach it, like what to use and why. You have to train that, or at least lay the foundation first, because it's almost like trying to have a conversation with someone in Chinese using English, because the way that we approach things and how we know what we know, the system of Western herbalism and Eastern herbalism is pretty different, pretty divided. Yeah. Even if you're talking about like Ayurvedic uses a different system than the Chinese, but it's still, Eastern has this sort of like even the premise of diagnoses comes from a different place. Yeah. So it's interesting that way also.
I was gonna say, maybe we could just start, instead of like discussing like actual herbs, but maybe we could discuss like that kind of process of like how they work with it. Like you could talk about the wood and because they use the 5 different elements, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the not only do the herbs, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So like how that's how they define the body, right? Like how each organ has a different element, right? Or a different things like that. I don't know everything about it. But
No, yeah, for sure. It's interesting because the body and the processes of the body can have certain elemental traits, but like in the body, and then the herbs themselves have elements that you can attribute to them too. But also inside of that, the way that it manifests in the body can be nuanced in ways that, like, how do I explain this? Like, because you
the way that like each body like metabolizes different.
could be, yeah, all that, sure, yeah. How would I say?
Because I know for like with my primary doctor, she does like Ayurvedic, and so like for me, I'm totally different. Like usually you just have one like that's kapha, or well, I have both in my body. Like I have kapha and pitta in certain areas, right? Because of my CF. So
To me,
I mean, I think that's kind of what you're talking about, is like it can be different in material,
Yeah.
like how you break down different herbs, right? Everybody
Hmm.
breaks down
So like,
different herbs differently. Or,
yes, depending on what they're presenting.
mm-hmm.
Yep. And so like with, how would I say it? Like, let's use an example with ginger, because we both know ginger, and ginger is a Western herb as well as an Eastern herb. Ginger's properties in Chinese medicine, they have properties which aren't necessarily associated with the elements that they affect, but we can get into that a little bit too. But the ginger is warm, it's acrid. But see, there's a difficulty here in doing this though, because like in Chinese, there are certain words, especially with regards to how it smells and how it tastes, because in Chinese, the Chinese language, there is a word for smell taste.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it's like it's waft. So like if you open up mint, for example, they will say
Mm-hmm.
that its scent flavor is acrid, I guess you could say,
Right.
because acrid has that like sharp cutting quality at the very
Sure.
top, like
Yeah.
high note,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it could be related to the liver channel, could be related to the gallbladder, could be related to the heart, the stomach. But each of those organ systems in the body is involved with a process that has an elemental component to it, but
Right.
that herb could have slightly different or a combination of elements within it that work in different ways that might be counterintuitive to thinking, like, because when we first learn it, it gets confusing sometimes because for example, there can be herbs that in certain circumstances will work on the fire component of something, or in other circumstances will work on the water component of something.
Right.
But
Yeah.
not all
That's
herbs, it is, and not all herbs are necessarily like that either. So there's certain herbs that are more like multifaceted than others that are more specific. And that's why I think most, if not all, Chinese herbal formulas have at least like 6 ingredients to them, and the average is like 12 to 14 is a normal. But if you're working with someone like us who has very long standing, difficult to treat kind of stuff, then you get into like the 20s territory, like of individual herbs.
complex. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it gets very complex, and it's also like the Chinese have taken note of what happens when you combine certain things too.
Oh, wow.
It is really cool. And even scientifically, there's been studies in China about this that are very interesting. They show that when you take even small numbers of ingredients, like let's say 3 ingredients, which isn't traditional, but they would take like 3 ingredients, put them together, cook them together in a certain way, and then measure the medicine after for the constituents in it and the components that are in there. And then they would find that the end result would have a sum of herbal components in there that are greater than the 3 individual herbs if they were just combined later. If they were all cooked separately and then combined, it wasn't the
That's
same.
interesting.
Yeah, it's not the
Yeah,
same
that's
medicine.
interesting.
It matters what's with something as much or sometimes
Wow.
even more than what that thing brings to the table. So it's like it's kind of like a symphony.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
can
totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, we
Well,
can
kind of complex.
yeah, we can lay it out, but first we have to talk about elements for sure. And then we have to
Yeah.
talk about like what the elements do in the body and what their roles are and what a healthy person looks like, or
Right.
how everything is designed to flow and be. And then we can talk about like herbs, and then we can get into like specific herbs and be like, okay,
Right.
astragalus is earth. It's mostly earth and metal, or it could just be mostly earth in this presentation. Or also, there's this study called Pao Cai in Chinese, which is not only about herbs, but it's about what specific preparation methods done to the herbs changes the properties and how. So in Chinese, they will distinguish between like raw astragalus that's just sliced
Right.
and dried versus taking that and then just dry frying it, or frying it with vinegar, or frying it with wine, or like burying it in clay, and then, or like wrapping it with clay and then burying it in the earth with a fire, and then cake and like baking it that way. Like there's so much. Yeah,
So many different ways of preparation too.
yeah, because people had time to experiment and look for stuff. Because way back in the day, the Chinese were obsessed with immortality, so they experimented with everything in their environment they could get their hands on. Yep. And so they're really knowledgeable with like antidotes for things too. Like, for example, if you have a cocaine overdose, you can take licorice and save a person's life.
Wow.
And most hospitals don't know that, you know, like if they just injected them,
Yeah.
like think about how powerful that could be, even for Western medicine. Like if someone comes into the clinic, yeah, and they're
That's
gonna,
what I'm saying. Like the complementary of both is so needed. Like
there's a
so needed.
there's a problem with that though too. We can talk about it on the, there's challenges with it, because usually it's like,
But it's a totally different. Like you said, like they diagnose people totally different.
exactly, and that's the thing they're unwilling to compromise from their institutional point of view.
Right. Yeah.
Because they come in there, and this is what's happened in China, because they've had about 10-15 years to experiment with this, and we know, at least from the Chinese culture, what is happening because of it, unfortunately. So what they did was they began putting acupuncture and herbal and Tui Na, which is like the massage of acupuncture. It's like acupuncture massage or acupressure. They started putting those people and resources like an apothecary within the hospitals themselves, and having like separate clinics for them. But the problem that they saw was that those practitioners gradually, year after year, started adhering more and more to a Western basis for how you diagnose and treat. So it would just be a complementary thing. So it's kind of like treating it like a dog
Right.
rather than as a peer, at the very least. You know? So there is it's like, how do we, it's a legitimate question, how do we incorporate both of them so that, you know, we have people on both sides of the fence who understand how things go, you know? So,
Yeah, I mean, it's still something that I completely struggle with because it's like, on one hand, I'm super grateful for the medicines that I have that are Western that help me, but then I struggle because I'm like, oh, I really wish it wasn't that way, or like,
exactly.
like, do I really need this medicine? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's still like an own internal struggle as well
Mm-hmm.
between, But then I am like, I gotta be grateful for what, here too that's been helping me my whole life because too. But
I don't know. I think maybe
in itself,
just personally for you, because I'm getting stuff off you right now, but like maybe, this is hypothetical, it's not so bad to have best of both worlds for your situation. That might be what you need. You might
that's
need
what I mean. Like,
pharmaceuticals and herbs. Yeah.
yeah.
There's a really,
I'm just saying, like, that's something that I've struggled back and forth for, and like, no, those are still gifts.
try to find the balance. I don't know. I think that everybody who's in our situation, at the very core of it, I think that infection is what's causing the stuff. Because I feel, I'll tell it to you. I think you can take it. I'm not trying to like deliver a hard hammer on you or anything, because you've been sick a while and you're a tough cookie, you know. And what you're sick with is much more severe than what it appears to be on the outside, which is the frustrating thing, because you look okay, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been in that spot too. But it's like, what was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna say something. Now I forgot it.
Internally,
Yeah.
a lot of things to work with.
Yeah. Look at it from the infection standpoint. You know, you might benefit from that, trying to, or finding somebody you can trust, really, I guess, that can assist you. Because it sucks too, because like when you're an herbalist and you go to see somebody who works with herbs, you can be your own worst enemy. So when I go into my doctor, I trust him, And I know he uses maybe different herbs, but he's got his system down, and he, because that's the other thing too. It's like in Chinese medicine, there's not just one way to go about it for all these different people. Or, for example, another way to put it is if you saw 3 different Chinese herbalists, they might prescribe you different formulas, or they might use slightly different things that are in the same kind of ballpark. It's kind of like Chinese medicine is kind of like a color wheel, and you can choose like the color yellow for people that have got these kinds of needs happening, and then there's all these different herbs that can be interchanged. So like you can be very creative. You can make 3 different formulas that basically do the exact same thing, but with totally different herbs, in preparation. So it's just a matter of dabbling with that, which is the part that makes it so fun in Chinese medicine, because just the sheer volume of how many herbs and substances there are thousands. And so it's like, whoa, you kind of like,
I know, it's like traditional Chinese medicine like takes my herbalism like
you should if you're interested in it though, you should definitely study it over the course of your life. But I recommend highly recommend that you at least study a little bit of rudimentary Chinese to understand, or at least it would help to learn a little bit of Chinese first, I guess, and then like maybe like a year or something like that, and then it doesn't have to be like gung-ho or anything, so that you can like understand some of the concepts that are going on in the description in the traditional Chinese medicine texts, because you have to understand the Wuxing, or the 5 phases, which is what we'll explain on the podcast. But
yeah, I think that's part of something that that would help me understand different things too.
Got to have it down first, because like I was invited to a conference once on acupuncture by my friend who's an acupuncturist, and it shocked me at how many practitioners at that conference, because people would give their input and there'd be a teacher, and then we would raise our hands just like in a classroom setting. So many people expressed basically, can you just show me like a shortcut to this? Because honestly, I don't know how this works. I went through all this school, did all of this training, and there's basic concepts that I still don't get and I'm confused about. And I'm starting to wonder if I got into the right profession. There was one dude who said that. Like I was shocked. Like during a continuing educational seminar at Northwestern Health Sciences College, he had been an acupuncturist for like 10 years or some shit. And he was just saying that now. And I was like, you are fucking treating people. You are seeing people.
Yeah.
Wrong. Like that pissed me off. It's like you need to like, you should dip out of that profession if you're going to be like, if you care about people's health and stuff like that. At the very least, you shouldn't go in there and be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
It's just because so much gets lost in translation, I think, with just simply going from Chinese to English. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. For sure.
And then the understandings they're not there. It's just like for example, the meridian system, like with acupuncture, every point has like a specific name. Yeah. Like it's geography. But in the Western system, they say like lung 6 or liver 2.
Right.
And although that's meaningful, it can be helpful to kind of like remember where the map is and everything. It can, like, there are combinations of things that people here in the West don't even try or go about because they don't have that systematic understanding. They just go off of like a rubric. Yeah, like if A is 1, then use P6, like that kind of thing. Like a Rubik's Cube that just like automatically, like an algorithm or whatever. And yeah, but anyway, not to talk you off, even though it always happens. So I'm down with either. If you would prefer that I just like pay you something, I just ask that you wait a little bit, only because I'm in the process of like getting a loan, and so we're itemizing everything,
Okay.
and figuring it out that way, because my trip to the Philippines put some extra charges on my credit card that so I'm having to pay that off. Yeah, because that's unfortunate, because otherwise, because I usually have that capital on hand just to
Okay.
but that's the logistics of it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I feel like that I'm okay with that.
Okay.
If you need time to wait, because just because I said I have
Mm.
3 or 4 that I already have
Mm.
recorded that I need to put out. So there
Okay,
is
that'll be
room.
fine. Yeah, that's totally perfect. Because if you do decide to like put it out there, like sorry.
I was gonna say, so like we could wait 3 months or something like that.
Yeah, sure. That
Before.
it's totally fine to you. I'm flexible with it. We can do that. I'm just saying that you also have the option too, if you wanted to. We could do, like, I think we were saying like 80-20 or something like that. Because the clients that I get are usually at pretty high price points, so it would technically like warrant you more money,
Okay.
like
And
two to
then
three times
we
more.
would work
Yeah,
with
and it
that.
would give me a flexible arrangement, because I'm strapped for capital at the moment. But it's not a
Right.
stickler thing. I'm totally fine with just writing you a
Okay.
check or whatever. But I'm just saying that's the benefit drawback, I guess, of
Or
whatever it is. Yeah,
yeah.
that I'm offering. Yeah.
Okay. Um, what do you guys think? I mean, are you okay with either one? Maybe the 80-20
You
figure?
can chew on it for a bit too, because I know you guys are kind of like me, where it's like if you were going to make an important decision, you don't have to like need it right now. No,
Yeah.
you can chew on it for a little bit.
Um,
Because the average client that I bring in who wants like an energy healing, that's going to be at least $200 for a
right.
private, and so 20% of that would be $40, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's just for one person.
Right.
So like if but then there's like the if factor, right? Because like how many people are going to watch that, and or later, and how long are we going to negotiate that
Where we're
period to
gonna
be?
go.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
like we'll have to
So
talk
we
about that.
want to
Yeah,
how long you want it to run for, or
exactly.
well, I mean, like the podcasts are indefinite, but
Mm.
yeah, as far as like the ad part.
Because a lot of, I'm not saying it's going to happen to you or to me or to anybody that does YouTube, but what I've found the trend to be for most people who have success on YouTube is that it takes 1 to 2 years rolling to build up a stuff. Yeah, especially if you have long form content, but it could totally be faster than that. Like you never know. But it usually takes about that, because then you have a volume of it. But a lot of the way that people consume that kind of stuff, like especially if you have like shorts, or if you have like what I was saying on the like having a separate channel, or just double publishing, like just publish the whole enchilada first and then the snippets after, here and there or whatever,
Right.
then it can promote a certain kind of consumption and like just get more visibility out. Like it's just like leveraging the algorithm in a sense,
Right.
because it's kind of like inversed like that. So like the algorithm will favor shorter videos usually, and the duration, that hotspot duration these days is like between 10, or what I say, like between 9 and 14 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Like 10
Yeah.
minutes, 11
That's
minutes.
really, um,
Mm.
yeah, what you want to keep it at. That's why I was trying to decide whether I wanted to do it just little snippets or
I think this is
just
just my
so much
opinion.
information in there that I didn't want to cut it out.
I
But
think you should literally just create like 2 channels, or
different ones.
double
Right.
post. Do just 2 though. Don't like add another, because you have that kind of itis sometimes, where it's like you get curious and you're like, well, what about a third, and what about a fourth, and what about, it's like, no, don't
Right.
don't drown yourself. So
Right.
just like, but have the variety. I think that you do well with variety. So have that. Yeah, give it a try. Like, or for one example, you could just have one channel and then just, take out little shorts and then set up a schedule for that. So it's kind of like the TikTok of YouTube, because that does, when you're just starting out, that probably these days, that's the number one thing you can do to bring in new traffic, new people.
Right.
Then
Well, that's
once,
why I was thinking, like, if I did,
yeah,
like, that's why I was thinking what TikTok would be, is just to, like, bring in little,
what I hear is that TikTok brings in sales. So like if you like link something in that, because that's what my girl's working on with me too, is to
right?
like bring people over to my website. But like as far as YouTube, like you could do both for sure. But I think that the shorts on YouTube are what directly affect the algorithm on YouTube to get it. So it'd be like a bigger bang for your buck if that's the sole purpose of why you'd want to do short form content, which is a totally valid reason. It's totally valid.
Yeah.
But like the other thing is, because like, so I follow this um, web this like podcast channel on YouTube. He's been around for a while, but he's got basically two channels now, and he only used to have one. So he's got one that's where he's just posting the long form. So when he posts like once a week or something like that, once every 2 weeks, the podcast is like 4 to 6 hours video. And then he's got like timestamps and everything. He did the whole enchilada with that. But then on his second channel, it's called, so his podcast is called Whatever. And then the other one is called Whatever Clips. So then on Whatever Clips, he's got yeah, where they're posting like every single day, like 2 or 3 times a day. Because basically what they did was they record all of this shit, and then they have like an editor who's just only editing, so that there's a consistency to it.
Right.
And then when you're putting it out there, like especially if you want to have people come back again and again and again and watch your stuff, like that's going to be huge. And that's why I think it takes a while sometimes to get that reverberation effect for YouTube channels, between like a year and two. But it can vary, like I've been following people for a very long time where I saw like they just stayed small and then just exploded, later on. Like it took them more than 2 years. And then I've also seen people that started up a channel fresh and they blow up in like 2 months.
Right.
So there's always that, I don't want to call it luck, but the divine order of things that
Right.
takes place too. Just got to accept whatever situation you're in.
For sure. So, yes, it is. And I have never done YouTube before. So
Me either.
it's learning process. And I can, and you can see in each one, like, how it's gotten, better and better, how I've done it and set it up and each thing. But, yeah, I'm going about it. It's a work in progress, for sure.
No, we got good stuff on there. Like I really feel, truly, I feel that where we're at least heading into the future, we might be here now, but I think that there's a huge hunger for genuine truth, because there's so much information that, because we're working within a system that has that structured that way already, to where it's like we leverage people's attention spans and psychology and things like that. It's embedded into the system itself, which is why you choose certain titles for videos and stuff to get this and that. And there's certain like tricks and everything. But at the heart of it, even if you sprinkle the tricks on the outside to get the audience to get there, once they're there, and then if that's what they're about, if they want like, an organic sandwich with 100% whole grain wheat that's been milled from your backyard, grown from the seed that you have on your farm, and if you, et cetera, et cetera. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Their long form content has been emerging. I think it's got a ways to grow, because you have to also look at the age demographic on YouTube of the people who are consuming all of that. They're going to be growing older, They're gonna be getting
Right.
older. They're gonna mature for their tastes. Hopefully,
Yeah, for sure.
you know.
What are they calling you now? Hold on.
Mm. Isn't that the Verizon song? Wonder if there's a pause somewhere.